by the way, nice melons.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Donuts podcast. I'm your host, Justin Metcalf, and I have a special treat for all 8 of my listeners. No, seriously though, there's been like over 100 downloads as of this recording. Thank you so much. Like, people are actually listening to this. It's not a lot of people, but that's fine. I don't care. It makes me really happy. So I decided a couple episodes I talked about how if if I do one a week, I won't finish this podcast series until for 15 years, and that's if they stop making more episodes right now. I don't want to be doing this for 15 years because I don't want to wait that long to talk about them. So I thought of ways to cut it down. Like maybe I can cut it in half, but that would mean doing 2 episodes a week. I'm not sure I'm going to commit to that yet, but for now, I thought of something cool. So it's Halloween, one of my favorite times of the year. And as you know, it's a very favorite time of year for The Simpsons. And they have the longest running Halloween special of any TV show ever. And in the Treehouse of Horror series. So I thought I'll review 3 episodes, the first 3 Treehouse of Horror episodes, and I'll drop them all for Halloween of 2024. As my gift to you, the listener, for listening. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Truly, I make lots of jokes, but for real, I'm glad that you're listening, and I appreciate it. So this first Treehouse of Horror episode is from season 2, episode 3. If you ever want to know what Treehouse of Horror number we're on, it's whatever season it is minus 1. Because in season 1 they didn't do one. First one was in season 2, and in this one, when it came out, you can see it in the credits. It's called The Simpsons Halloween Special, and then of course was later changed to the Treehouse of Horror 1, and then all future Halloween episodes were the Treehouse of Horror, whatever, 2, 3, whatever. We really looked forward to these when these came out every year. It was like one of our favorite times of the year. We'd get a new Simpsons episode, and it would be macabre, and like they could take the show in different directions, and they'd kill people off and have all sorts of things happen that they couldn't do in normal episodes, because in this one you could just start all over. It's just a Halloween special, so it's okay if we murder Flanders, and then the next episode, that's all right, that was just Halloween, nothing, no harm done. It was really brilliant and a lot of entertainment for over the years. So some pretty cool stuff happened in this first the first Treehouse of Horror. We're still within the first 2 seasons, so there's some things missing. Animation's a little better than season 1, but still not quite there. There's some character development that's not quite finished, but still there's a lot that we get out of this episode. So yeah, like I said, October 25th, 1990 is when it came out, and it has one of the most amazing actors on the planet as a guest star, and it's James Earl Jones. James Earl Jones plays the mover, Serac the preparer, and the narrator, because this episode's broken up into 3 different sequences. I forgot to do the Troy McClure. James Earl Jones, you might remember him from movies like, where do I begin? The first movie I ever saw him in was The Sandlot. Loved that movie. He was the blind neighbor where the ball goes, with the big dog. Ball goes over the fence, and let's see. Of course, Star Wars. He played the voice of Darth Vader. He played Simba. No, the Lion King. Mufasa. He played Mufasa's voice. He was in so many movies, but his voice is absolutely unmistakable. So I hope you enjoyed as much as I did. Let's get into it. Okay. Welcome back. Thank you again. I've said that enough. Sorry. No more You understand that I'm grateful. Blah, blah, blah. Let's do trivia. Okay, starting off with, what are the names on the tombstones in the opening credits? But there's so many. That's mean. Shut up. All right. First of all, just shut up. You get 1 point for every correct answer. All right. Now, we're on the honor system. If you didn't do your homework, that's not my problem. I don't care. I mean, I know I didn't tell you last episode that I was going to drop this episode, but I don't know. A true fan would just know. Sorry. I'm not sorry. This next, now I'll talk about that in a minute. Second, okay. What is the full name of the cookbook on the alien spaceship? Dun dun dun. All right. And third, who plays the Raven in the third sequence? Okay, let's get into it. Now, the concept of the Treehouse of Horror episodes was just to be a Halloween special. Whether or not they wanted it to be something they did every single season when they first came out with it, I don't know. There might be some DVD commentary that I missed from way back when that clarified that, but what we do know is that it came out as the Simpsons Halloween special and then was later changed to the Treehouse of Horror I. And then all future ones were just the Treehouse of Horror with the number in the sequence. The Halloween episodes don't begin like other episodes. Most of them start with somebody coming onto the screen with a red curtain behind them, like they're in a theater, and they have a discussion. Usually, it's to implore adults to not let their children watch the show. And Marge says something hilarious. This is my favorite joke of this episode. Marge says, "So, if you have sensitive children, send them to bed early instead of watching the show." And don't let them watch the show rather than writing us angry letters in the morning. I butchered that so hard. Oh, I'm embarrassed. I got over it though, really quickly. It was still funny. Go watch it. There is an abundance of written jokes in the beginning credits of these episodes. So in this one, it's on the tombstones, and that's the trivia question. We'll talk. I'll go through the names later, but there's names on the tombstones that are funny. And then in future episodes, they change the names of the credits. So like it's also a different theme song. It's like an eerie theme song, and the credits are in like a green melting font. You all know what I mean. It's the same every year, and it's become kind of quintessential for the Treehouse of Horror. But what we know now is that the opening sequence has funny names like James L. Brooks. His name is James Hell Brooks. And Matt Groening is Matt Groening. It's funny, clever stuff. But in this first one, they were regular credit names, still the font that we know, but the jokes were in the tombstones. Lastly, the episodes, they're inspired by an old EC Comics, not DC. I'm not saying it wrong. It's called EC Comics, a comic book or a comic strip called Tales from the Crypt. There was also a stint for several years of Tales from the Crypt on, I think, HBO back in the 90s too. So that inspired more than one show. Pretty good stuff. Okay, it's broken up into 3 segments. So it starts with Homer. He walks up into the treehouse to listen to ghost stories, and the 3 stories are the 3 sequences. So the first one, it's kind of like Poltergeist. It's called Bad Dream House, and there's a lot of comedic elements to this. And the house is frustrated with the family. He doesn't want it there. The house talks back to him. There's this portal to another dimension. Homer throws something in there, and then rolled up piece of paper gets thrown back and says, "Don't throw your garbage in our dimension." There's lots of funny jokes like that. There's lots of satire of the classic haunted house tropes. Like I say kind of based on Poltergeist because there's elements of Poltergeist in this, but there's a lot of there's a lot of movies and shows that this episode's making fun of. I think the most prominent is Poltergeist. But so the house is going crazy. The cabinets are bleeding. The walls are melting and changing. And um, Lisa opens the door and says, "Oh no, look at this!" And she finds an Indian burial ground just down some stairs through one of the doors, which again is they're poking fun at that the trope of, you should look up trope. I did, and of how that was just, it was like a scapegoat almost, like we want to tell a horror story. Well, how do we connect it to something sinister? An Indian burial ground. This is built on an Indian burial ground. Like it was played out a lot, and I'm I'm fairly certain that's why the joke was there, and I think it landed perfectly, and it's still funny today. There's some dark humor in this too. So after a few minutes, the house is yelling at him and telling him to cut each other and do all sorts of nasty things, and Marge starts almost looking like she's going to hyperventilate, and then just screams, "Shush, shut up!" Yells at the house, and then gives it an ultimatum. So they tell the house that, we got to live together, right? And so the house takes a moment to think about it, because it's a house with a mind, like a robot. And the house, this is the dark humor, it chooses to self destruct rather than live with the Simpsons. It was, that's, I mean, you think about it, that's dark humor. And it was hilarious. I loved it then, love it now. Okay, segment 2. It's called Hungry Are the Damned, and Bart tells this story. The Simpsons are abducted by the aliens Kang and Kodos. This is one of the best segments ever with Kang and Kodos. Maybe even my favorite of all time. They typically are only in the Halloween episodes, but um, this one's great. Okay, so they plan to serve the humans a delicious feast, or do they? Muahaha. There's some cloak and dagger here, which is funny the way they do it. There's this classic sci-fi horror theme of an alien abduction, and then they put Homer on a scale, and they're foaming at the mouth and drooling as he's weighed, because he's like super fat. And what we learn later is they always drool. That's just a normal thing, but at the time it's making you think, oh yeah, they definitely want to eat this dude. And the visual style, which is, pays homage to homage. I'm not going to get hung up on how to pronounce that, to a lot of classic horror films, but it also kind of sets the stage for some funny interpretations. So Lisa's walking around the ship, and she sees uh, James Earl Jones, who plays Serac the Preparer. He's making a meal, and he's looking at a cookbook, and the cookbook is called How to Cook Humans. Dun dun dun. Such a dumb joke, but it's so freaking funny. They confront the aliens, and the aliens say, "Oh, there's dust on this book," and they blow space dust off the book, and it missed a word. How to cook for humans. And then Lisa, I know I'm giving away one of the trivia questions, but it's a big bit. Lisa's like, "Wait, let me see that," and she blows more space dust, and then the book says how to cook 40 humans. Oh, dun dun dun. And then, because you can never get too many attempts out of a gag, the alien takes it back and says, "Wait, there's more space dust." Which is when we do finally see the full title of the book, How to Cook for 40 Humans. And then they get super offended, and Sarek the Preparer cries, and it's so funny. And they kick the humans out. The Simpsons lose the opportunity of a lifetime to be able to live in luxury and have all their needs met, because they didn't trust the aliens. Very, very funny. Very well done. I thought that was great. The third is The Raven, and this is the poem from Edgar Allan Poe. I think beautifully done. It's narrated by James Earl Jones as the narrator, and then Homer. He's still Homer. He's Homer's voice, and he has some mannerisms, but he's saying the lines from his character from the poem, which is funny, but still pretty well done. It shows some depth. Dan Castellaneta, my absolute favorite Simpsons voice actor. Jeez, did a great job. I loved it. The adaptation of the poem into the Simpsons universe was very clever, and the visual style here again plays homage to some classic horror films. The way that it's set up with the roaring fireplace and the high back chair, and the bust over the door. Um, I didn't give enough thought to these trivia questions. I made them questions about very prominent scenes, so now I'm going to give away the third one too. But so eventually, the Raven comes in, as he does in the poem, and it's played by Bart, and all he says is "nevermore," and then something funny later on. But I think they did a great job connecting the theme of the story of that poem into the Simpsons Halloween special, in um, that style. What do you think? How do you think they did? This is we're seeing some evolution from season one into season two, not quite to where we know it now, or to where it really hits its stride and continuity in season three. But I, what do you think? Do you still like this episode? I thought it was great. Um, what about the lasting impact on The Simpsons in pop culture? So this is more for like the people my age, the Gen Xers. Again, not boomers. I don't. I don't like boomers. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. I'm just not allowed to. It's a generational thing. And then consequently, I also don't like millennials because they pretend that I'm one of them, and it's such an argument that my whole life I was a Gen Xer, and then some Yahoo says, "Oh, but you were born in this year, so you're actually a millennial." That's not how that works, bud. All right, shut up. Where was I? I have got to stop with this generational bashing. It's just, no, I don't. No, I'm going to power through. Anyway, so older people really are going to be better at, in my opinion, of answering those questions, because what is the lasting impact on The Simpsons and pop culture for this Halloween special? Like, it has lasted, they've done it every single year. What do you remember year after year growing up? Did you anticipate it? Did you get excited for it? Were you surprised by what you saw in the episodes? I'm pretty sure they almost all have the three segments too. Like for the commercial breaks, but they're always three segments, but they're like three different stories. You know what I mean? In that format. Uh, I think it was a great anthology format. The Halloween special, I think it was very effective. Again, though, what do you think? How do you think it held up? Consider this: the show writers and the showrunners' ability to balance horror and comedy was very telling. We've already talked about a few episodes where they balance humor with other things, like certain emotions, sadness and tragedy and things like that. But to balance horror and comedy so beautifully, I think was definitely something that propelled them into wanting to do this every single year. I know it got great reviews. I know it was very well received, and I think some people could argue they missed the mark some years, but for the most part, I mean, it's still a very popular episode, a very popular time of year. They just gave Disney Plus just uh, early mid November or October dropped their um, it's the best or the most wonderful time of the year. It's like a 3-minute song with Kelsey Grammer, and it's about Halloween. So like the Simpsons are synonymous with Halloween, and their special for this year, by the time you're listening to this, may already be available. Who knows? But I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be terrific. So, as you know, I'm alone right here. I'm not talking to anybody. I'm going to start having guests with me in the near future where we discuss and we have back and forth. So there's going to be more than just my voice. But you also know, even though it's just me, that I still try to engage. I've said it before. I like to have open dialogue. I like to have conversation. That's hard to do with a microphone and a computer. So that's why I set up that Twitter account so that you can engage with me. I absolutely still plan to reply to tweets and to have that open dialogue with you. Whether you're going to send a tweet and make fun of me, or send me a tweet of a correction, something that I did wrong, I'll reply. And depending on how I feel at the time, it could be a real reply or it could be a saucy reply. But I still will reply because I told you I like that back and forth in that dialogue. I love being engaged in conversation about things that I'm passionate with. And I'm very passionate about The Simpsons. I'm pretty sure I've made that pretty clear. So tell me which of these segments was your favorite and why. Do you have a favorite Treehouse of Horror moment in general? Like, of all the Treehouse of Horrors, is there one that's your favorite? I do, and it's coming up soon. It's one of the very first ones where Homer is he goes to hell and he's awaiting trial, and while he's awaiting trial, he spends a day in hell, and um, Flanders is the devil, which is so freaking funny, and they feed him like a billion donuts, and it's this torture machine that's supposed to torment someone by overfeeding them, and of course, in classic Homer fashion, he can't get enough. He's calling for more by the end. And I won't ruin it, but there's the goblin or demon that's administering the torture says a very funny joke. He says, "I don't understand," and then it's funny joke. You should look it up. I don't want to ruin it. So, but tell me what your favorite ones are. Favorite moment, favorite sequence, favorite Treehouse of Horror, and how do you think this episode holds up compared to later Halloween specials? I've told you my opinion. I think that this one was so well done that it set the stage for them to know this is going to be a regular thing. This is something that we need to do. This format is going to work. Let's do it every year. So that's my opinion. But what's yours? Do you think it holds up? There might be people out there who think this was a horrible one. Fortunately, people like that are probably not listening to this podcast. So we won't have to hear from them. Thank you so much for listening. Let's get to the trivia answers. I'm going to go backwards because I already ruined them. But 3, I told you Bart is the Raven. And 2, the final name of the book was How to Cook for 40 Humans. How to Cook for 40 Humans. Yeah, I got that right. Okay. Sorry. I'll try to do better with trivia and make it. I like the really obscure ones. Like, if you're not really paying attention, you're going to miss it. But on this episode, these are the ones that stuck out to me that I liked. Okay, so question 1: the names on the tombstones. There were quite a few actually. It was clearly a Simpsons area or Simpsons cemetery, at least initially. The first names are Ishmael Simpson, Ezekiel Simpson, Cornelius V. Simpson, and then the jokes start. Garfield. This is funny because at the time Garfield was dying. Get it? Because never mind. Because it was animated and it didn't last nearly as long. Anyway, The Grateful Dead is the next one. Casper the Friendly Boy. Get it? Because he's Casper the Friendly Ghost. But when he died, he was Casper the Friendly Boy. No? No, I thought it was funny. Okay, then Elvis. And then the next one is Your Name Here. And then Paul McCartney, who ironically is the only Beatle still alive today. And then the last one is Disco. I believe that's 10. So you have the possibility of getting 10 points on that question alone. How'd you do? Did you make me proud? Well, I'll never know if you don't tweet me. Send me your scores. Tell me what you got. And be honest. Or don't. I'm not your mother. You do what you want to do. But I'm a fairly distrusting person. So I probably won't believe you either way. Hey, listen, thanks again for listening. I really appreciate you spending 25 to 30 minutes with me every week, or in this case, maybe 3 times. That's a lot to have to listen to me for that much time. I want you to know genuinely, I appreciate you spending that time, which is our most valuable resource, with me. It means a great deal to me. I'm grateful. I hope that you're as passionate about The Simpsons as I am, and I hope that you'll continue to listen and we can continue to have lots of fun together for several years. All right? Be good. Take care.